Okay, well, if you want to throw up the PowerPoint, we can go ahead and get the party started.
Can you all see it, the PowerPoint? I'm already sharing my screen. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see it?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
see it.
see it.
Thank you, thank you. So with that, Mr. Henderson, I would love to do an introduction and then turn it over to you.
Please.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us at the Wooten Center for our second workshop with Mr. Andrew Henderson. For over 20 years, he was the executive director of Families for Children, Inc., and is currently consulting program officer for FFC Spiritual and Behavioral Health Centers. FFC is a behavioral health program operated by Families for Children. Mr. Henderson attended the University of California, Santa Cruz, where he received a bachelor's degree in economics in 1981. He attended California State University, Los Angeles, where he received a master's degree in counseling in 1998. Throughout his professional career, Mr. Henderson has been an advocate for youth and is credited with developing innovative programming to address this population. He created the Foster Youth Empowerment Workshop for Families for Children and has a long and distinguished history of collaborating with public and private organizations to enhance the quality of life for youth and families. Last week, he talked about teaching kids responsibility and discipline, and tonight he will be focused on establishing rituals in the home. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Henderson.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Well, I hope everybody is having a good evening tonight, and I hope that this whole COVID-19 experience has not been too devastating, but you've been able to navigate with the support of family and friends. I know it's just been a challenge for everybody, especially when it comes to home-based education. That's a real challenge for every parent that I've talked to, and I'm hoping that these sessions kind of lend support and also some insight in how to better navigate that whole home learning process. So establishing learning rituals in the home. First of all, can we do a quick introduction of everybody real quick? Um, if anybody wants to just jump in and kind of, when you introduce yourself, just kind of real briefly talk about what brought you to this PowerPoint or to this Zoom session.
I'll go.
Thank you.
So my name is Keisha Jones. I actually just switched off. I was Kay Jones, but I have a Wooten Center student participant, and she's 11, and I have a 4-year-old, and I do have a hard time with our routine. So that's what drew me to it.
Thank you. And I'm hoping we give you something that you can use this evening.
Okay, I can go. My name's Eddie Ross. I have an 11-year-old fifth grade student that's in the Wooten Academy. I also have a 3-year-old daughter who's in pre-K, so they're both doing the homeschool. It's beautiful and it's horrible at the same time.
Right.
But you know, like most of you guys here, just see any type of support, resources, advice, etc.
Thank you. And I'm hoping we can be of some benefit. I saw someone there in the chat. See it. 9th, 4th, and 2nd grade. Wow. Okay. You folks have your hands full. I'm glad you're here. So good. If we can advance the slide, Rebecca, we'll go ahead and move on. This slide you're looking at now, my other work is in developing foster parents for a agency called Wayfinder Family Services. So if you've ever considered foster parenting, please take note of that email that's on that page there, because there is such a need for quality parents. And if you just wanted to find out information, it's no commitment. It's just a simple information session that we would be more than happy to engage you guys in if anyone is interested. So that information is on that slide there. Okay, so what is a ritual? Understanding the meaning and importance of rituals, the ritual of study and homework, family rituals to encourage learning. So those are some of the learning pieces that I will be sharing with everybody this evening. So what is a ritual? A ritual is a specific set or sequence of acts or behaviors that provide meaning and structure in our lives. Rituals are a central part of life. Rituals that are passed from one family or generation to another. Through rituals, families identify what is valued and provide a pathway for children to proceed into adulthood. So, what this panel is saying is that rituals are an element of everyone's life, maybe unrecognized to some extent, that add a sense of purpose, a sense of being, a sense of how we as individuals and then families kind of operate within the sphere of comfort and security. Okay, you can advance the slide. So, rituals include day to day essentials, how one begins and ends the day, meal times, leaving home and returning home, actions that mark transitions, marriage ceremonies, first communions, bar mitzvahs, funerals, starting school, graduation ceremonies, and entering college. Family traditions, Sunday dinner together, certain foods and activities during holiday celebrations, birthdays and anniversaries, coming of age events, getting a driver's license, opening a savings or bank account, riding a bike to and from school, national rituals, playing the national anthem at public events, fireworks on the 4th of July, decorating graves on Memorial Day, and this last part is important, a source of emotional nourishment individually, in marriage, family, and change rituals. So this slide is basically kind of giving new meaning to what we take for granted. These activities that we take for granted that we do every day. We are so rushed in our movements and our schedules and getting our kids together for this, getting ourselves together for this, getting someone else together for that, always thinking ahead, not kind of taking a step back and, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath now. Okay. So when I do this, this has meaning because I do it every day. And instead of doing it unconsciously, let this be something that I reflect on, right? Let this be something that I know will establish my day. Okay, we can move on. Understanding the meaning and importance of rituals. Rituals provide meaning and structure for all individuals, regardless of the cultural, ethnic background, the socioeconomic status, or the uniqueness of the individual life situations. All cultures, all churches, all families, all communities, and all schools are held together by their rituals. Rituals are a central part of our lives on a daily basis, yearly basis, or periodically as transitions in life are marked. Rituals also provide personal security required for daily living. Rituals are a planned, consistent use of time that makes the individual and family values visible. In rituals, there is a repetition of action and content. Two kinds of rituals are of particular importance. So before we move on, can anyone talk to the folks here about what may be an important ritual in their life? Okay. You can put it in the chat too if anyone's at all interested. Now, for me, I can tell you what kind of really sets my day. In the morning, when I get up, the very first thing I do, because I've been married for like 1.5 years, is I kiss I did, and it sounds so corny, but it's true. That to me really starts my day and really gives my day meaning to let me know that life is good. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. So, day-to-day essentials. Most individuals and families have developed a ritual for starting the morning to get the day started right. The creation of a specific pattern of behavior and the reinforcement of other family members being a part often overcome the initial opposition kids have to getting up and getting ready for school. Let me see. I'm gonna someone threw in a chat comment. Let me
That was me, Mr. Henderson.
okay.
I was going to throw in my ritual at the start of the day was having coffee in the morning, kind of like gets my mind into the game.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Getting up, getting organized, having breakfast, and leaving the house provide daily rituals that are meaningful actions, often including symbols that express far more than words. When and how family members greet each other at breakfast, where they sit, tells a lot about how people are connected within the family. Therapists and doctors state that the creation of evening rituals to end the day can be more effective than sleeping pills. A glass of warm milk before bed may be effective because it entails a simple, repetitive action at the end of the day, which signifies that that day is over and it is time to sleep. Now, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to take a look at our first module regarding motivation and elements of getting kids to learn, but this builds on that. And one of the big pieces of the first session was family meetings, right? And what family meetings look like within the context of teaching our children rituals, teaching our children what's expected of them in a way where they can provide input and feedback on how they feel about the process of being in this particular family. So, family meetings and rituals kind of go hand in hand. And again, if you haven't had a chance, I would strongly recommend that you take a look at the first session because they're kind of building blocks on each one. There'll be 4 sessions in this program, and this is the second one. Okay, we can go on to the next slide. And now let me know too, if you'd like us to leave the slides up longer for you guys to kind of digest, we can certainly do that. So, number 2, rituals as a source of emotional nourishment. Individual rituals. Some individuals need time alone to replenish their energy reserves. For individuals needing time alone, stress increases dramatically when they are forced by circumstances to be with others all the time. A scheduled afternoon rest time is healthy and desirable for your child. Marital rituals. The marital relationship must be nourished apart from the children as well as with the children. Parents have a responsibility to themselves and to their children to model a healthy relationship that is visible and valued, one the children will want to emulate when they become adults. So, to establish and maintain rituals to nourish the marriage gives children 2 important messages. You, the child, are not the center of the universe. We, your parents, are important people and have needs apart from our parenting roles. This allows your child to develop their own roles apart from the family and to move towards independence. Find ways to take care of one's own needs. And adults have a responsibility to create rituals that address their own needs and the needs of others within the family. This tells the child that attending to one's own needs is an adult role that he or she will be expected to fulfill at some point. I think too that when you consider where we are now in terms of COVID-19, in terms of all the challenges that we face around the crisis, that this is so important to remember self-care, right? What are we doing to center ourselves as we navigate all these confusing responsibilities we have now? And the more we can recognize not only the need, but also a tool to do that, the better and more productive we will be during these crises. We can go ahead and advance the slide. Rituals as a source of emotional nourishment continued. Family rituals. Family rituals provide children with a sense of belonging. Belonging to a family is an important building block to self-esteem in a child. Family rituals provide a boundary between our family and others' families. Regular family meetings, as discussed in previous presentations, are a way to recognize individual achievement, celebrate wins, and encourage reciprocal appreciation among family members. Change. Families experience different developmental levels, and family rituals must change as children grow. When rituals become rigid, they often lose their meaning and may become sources of friction rather than a source of satisfaction and belonging. Each change within a family provides an opportunity to review current rituals, talk about what has been and is meaningful about rituals, and create new rituals. We can move on. So, the ritual of study and homework, and this is probably important to everyone on this Zoom call tonight. One of the prevailing myths of education is that there is a right way for students to do homework. Research is clear that children learn in different ways, and that if a child does not study in a prescribed manner, it does not mean that he or she will not be successful nor complete homework. Okay, the next slide, please. The time of study for each child is different based on his or her unique learning preferences, and the place is different for each child. Consider these common variations. Many children study best in the presence of an adult, even if the adult is not actively helping them. Some children prefer to study early in the morning, especially if they have a test that day. They find it easier to remember things they study in the AM. Some children study best in an informal setting, preferring to sit in an easy chair or on their bed rather than in a straight chair at a desk. Some children learn better with soft music playing, shutting out other distracting noises. Some children prefer to curl up on a couch next to a soft light to read, but like a straight chair and desk when doing math. Children may prefer different settings at different times, depending upon their mood, level of stress, temperature, familiarity with the content being studied, and other factors. Okay, so, and it took me a minute to get used to this with my own kids when they were younger. Um, they would, I had this kind of rigid expectation that if you're not sitting at the dining room table after school at 4 o'clock, you weren't doing your homework, right? But the girl would be in her room, half off the bed, half on the bed. Our sons would be someplace around the house with their book doing something. It was just all over the place, but they were bringing home the grades we expected and even better. So that kind of taught us that, yeah, um, if kids understand, and then this can be something that's supported in the family meeting, what's expected of them, how they get the results. This is what we have to understand as parents. How they get the results is individualized. And that's what this slide supports. Okay, the next slide. 6 significant study preferences. Persistence refers to a learner's willingness to stick with a task until it's completed. Posture. Preference identifies learners who prefer to work in an upright position at a desk or table versus learners that prefer a more relaxed posture, a sofa, upholstered chair, floor, or bed. Mobility. Describes a learner's tendency to move about and take breaks while studying. Sound preference refers to a learner's need for and reaction to quiet or moderate sound as a screen against other distractions. Lighting describes a learner's need for higher or lower levels of light. Study time. Preferences derive from the natural rhythms of the body. Learners are more or less ready to learn depending on the time of day. That's something called the circadian rhythms that talk about how teenagers, we are starting school too early because their physiological development is not there yet. Adolescent circadian rhythms are still building their body and building their ability to be attentive, building those dendrites in the brain. So we should actually start school later. And there's research that's finally being used, and school will be starting later in the future, trust me. But when you look at this slide, right, many of our children will say, well, I do better this way. Well, I can't do, well, this does, you hear these kinds of things from our kids. But again, many times we have in our minds what is right and wrong when it comes to how you do your homework. But as parents, what we need to invest in is the results, right? So if you haven't tried any of this, try it and see what the results are. That's the key. Because if kids are allowed to exercise their learning styles, not only will it make them more inclined to complete the task of homework, but it's also a self-esteem builder. They'll start to feel a little better about themselves because they're achieving. They're not trying to be squeezed into a certain box that we create as parents on how things should be done. And this has everything to do with accountability, nothing to do with discipline, right? Children and every one of us must be held accountable, but it's just what that accountability process looks like. Okay, we can go on to another slide. Students who understand their learning styles and who exercise active control over their cognitive skills do better in school. They are better adjusted, have more positive attitudes toward learning, and achieve at higher levels than do their less skillful peers. Parents often ask the following questions about learning preferences. At what age are most children's learning preferences formed? What if I have several children, each with a different learning preference? How can I accommodate all of them in a small house and maintain any semblance of family life? Here's where the rubber meets the road. Okay, we can go to the next slide. This is fun. So, studying as a ritual, the ritual of studying is an important ritual to consider and is enacted daily in homes throughout the nation. It is suggested that all learners need a study time, not a homework time. Learners need a designated time for study, whether or not they have homework to complete. The concept of study time as a regular ritual can begin when the child is a toddler with a quiet time for looking at books, doing puzzles, or having the parent read a story. Once the concept of a study ritual is institutionalized, the friction over homework becomes irrelevant. So, you see, we are talking about building blocks here, right? A few slides ago, it talked about how we're linking the family meeting to the review and development of rituals and how we value the voices of everyone in the family around this process, right? So, what we are eventually doing is giving value to almost every little activity that creates comfort, creates uh, achievement, if you will, or creates just a stable environment. We're giving those things value, and that's what rituals are all about. Are giving these things we just take for granted, giving them more the value that they deserve, and making us whole, and making us feel better about who we are and what we're doing. You can continue. Uh, so the importance of treating study as a ritual reinforces the following concepts for a child. Learning is important in our family, and we will attend to the task of learning each day of our lives. It helps if the parents also spend time reading or learning each day as a model for the children. We are less interested in enforcing homework than in knowing that you are growing up learning to be a lifelong learner and valuing learning. Learning is a valued ritual in our home, and as a member of this family, you are expected to participate in and carry on our family rituals. Even when it is inconvenient for you and for us, we will schedule and plan around study time because it is a high priority within our family. For those times when an interruption of the regular study ritual is unavoidable, another time will be scheduled. Okay? So, again, how this is introduced in the family, because again, these modules, these four modules, and they're called Families and Schools Together, um, may be giving you new ideas or just kind of reinforcing what you already knew, but giving a little more value. So it's never a good idea to say, okay, today we're going to change everything and do it this way, this way, this way, this way. So it, I would suggest that as you move through these modules, if you come back or even if you don't, the one thing you should remember to do that supports all four is the family meeting. That's the single most important element that you can do to establish communication in your family, allow people to relax, create a greater sense of closeness, and reduce stress, especially now. We are in a highly stressful environment. So the family meetings is that deep breath as a family unit. The family's taking a deep breath and just saying, okay, we're together, we love each other, we know we have our challenges, and everybody has a voice here this evening. Let's talk about it. Okay? So we can move to the next slide. The needs of each child's study patterns may differ, and it is important for parents to take an active role in establishing expectations. The following suggestions are provided as a tool for parents to use when considering how much structure and organization is needed. Remember that children must be taught organizational skills even if they choose to disregard them during later developmental stages. Set up a home with clear structures and routines, which will provide the security necessary to learn and to develop positive self esteem. Remember that you are striving to establish a sense of order and consistency, not a rigid or inflexible set of rules. Try to retain a special study area in your child's room for organizing and storing study materials. There should be 4 areas for each learner, one each for sleeping, dressing, playing, and studying. Involve your child in organizing each area. Have your child maintain the organization with a scheduled time to pick up and put away. Now, this can be as small as a 12 by 12-inch area. You see, we're not saying you need a 1,000 square foot space to do these things. What's important is it's teaching the child organizational skills. It's teaching the child how to develop a critical thinking process, right? That creates again self-esteem, creates a sense of responsibility, and then shows respect for what's important in your family. So we can go to the next one. Family rituals to encourage learning. Family rituals are typically acquired over time, often with little planning or forethought. Rituals may evolve, may be continued from families of origin, or may be adopted from one's cultural community. Rituals clearly identify for children what is important to the family. The following elements are suggested as consideration in establishing learning rituals. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Time and place. Rituals should be planned to occur at specific times and in specific places. So let's take a look at meal times. If a family eats together at specific times each day, family members may fall into a pattern of discussing what happened during the day at school and at work. Family Weekly family meetings have been used successfully by many families as a time to discuss issues and plan together. Next slide. So membership. A sense of belonging is created when a child is able to contribute to the family and is appreciated for his or her contribution. Helping to plan the recognition of a sibling's achievements contributes to the sense of belonging and also encourages a child's desire to achieve and receive recognition. Now, we there is a kind of a dividing line, if you will, between over praising and having normal expectations that they come to recognize as this is what's expected of you. If you go above and beyond, then I will praise you a little more for this. So, if you're understanding what I'm saying here is that we don't want children to think that everything they do is worthy of praise. That would not be a good way for them to grow up, because then they think that waking up in the morning deserves a new car. And we don't want to go there. But um, you kind of gauge that if your child is having difficulty, right, and it's hard for you to find anything to praise them for, that's when you might lean towards an overpraise stage, right? Um, to build on that, because some children have more challenges than others. That's we recognize that, and the more challenged children lead us to becoming more frustrated, and in our frustration, we forget to see the good things, the little good things this child may be doing. So it's important, even words. Thank you, Marcia. Great job. Is okay. Excellent. Marcia, you're so on it. Absolutely. We have to look for opportunity to praise children who are challenged to achieve, because again, it does work. So let's go to the next slide. Utilizing differences. Family rituals should be planned to recognize individual differences in learning. A ritual can be used to encourage your child to contribute through his or her unique abilities. For example, creating a family game around learning, performing a skit, or drawing a picture can be contributed by the child to increase family participation. We can go to the next slide. Repetition. Ideally, rituals will become a regular part of the family routine. Daily, weekly, or monthly rituals can be augmented by special occasion rituals, such as at grade time, graduations, before achievement, at special events such as school plays, events, or parent recognition at PTA awards. Again, repetition establishes uh, basically how your family is structured in terms of rituals, right? Um, Sometimes we believe that, and many of you who are professionals may have been to trainings where once you leave the room, you forgot 90% of what was presented, which will happen here as well. That's why this will be on the website. Everybody does it. So repetition and affirmation are very important when it comes to exercising rituals. Yes, we've heard it before, but we need to hear it again. And that's just human nature. So that no, this is all about affirmations as much as anything else. We can go to the next slide. Giving and receiving. Each family member must be allowed to both give, contribute, and receive, be appreciated as a part of the family rituals. Even the youngest family member can be a part of the rituals. Family debates on current affairs, when carefully planned to prevent a winner and loser orientation, are stimulating and can be used to teach values and new ideas. So if we don't have a rich current event environment now, we never have one. It's just amazing. There are so many teaching moments for your children right now. And I hope it's not lost in the stress that home-based learning demands of us now, because your children are being part of a living history lesson right now. This is 2020 is probably one of the most significant years we've had in 100 years in this country. There's just so much learning, and typically we won't realize that until later, and that's kind of how things work. But you know, discussing these things now in your family meetings, your kids will remember for a lifetime. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Reinforcement. Rituals should be used to catch a child doing something right, regardless of the problems which may occur in a child's learning. There is always something positive which can be reinforced. Reinforcement strategies can be used to increase positive behaviors, maintain new learning behaviors, encourage children to generalize learning to new situations, and to reduce or replace non-productive behaviors. Expressing interest, commitment, and enthusiasm for their own and their children's learning by parents is perhaps the most potent reinforcer. I'm leaning like that because of my back. I have a little back thing going on here. I'm not too rude about that. So expressing interest, commitment, enthusiasm for their own and their children's learning by parents is perhaps the most potent reinforcer of all. Right? We are engaged parents. We are interested parents. We are parents that listen to our children. That's kind of what that last paragraph is saying. The next one, please. Celebration. Families can create wonderful rituals to celebrate success. Small successes are important as well as milestone achievements. Using family rituals to celebrate encourages children to value themselves and others. Creating a family trophy that is passed from one family member to another is one form of celebration. Okay, next slide. So that's it for me. I know I've kind of talked about a lot of different ideas and concepts. Any comments on what you've heard? Is this something that you think you may be able to use? Or if you want to just talk about what some of your own experiences are in your family kind of related to this.
Hopefully the noise in the background is not too loud. But the part for me was trying to get my child interested in learning. Since she's been in second grade, she expressed she does not like school, she just likes science. So trying to keep her interested when it's not science. I did pick up during the pandemic on the learning style. I allowed her to move around the house different times or for the week. So some weeks she might be in the living room, some weeks at the table, some weeks in the room, on the floor. Um, and with my little one, it's a little bit more difficult. Um, Always had a reading time. So for me, I'm like maybe incorporating some new rituals. Um, maybe something different to change it up for them, make it more at home. Um, when it comes to learning, I also with math, my daughter, we're teaching her through money. So sometimes a little bit after math time, we'll go to the bank and she'll have to count her money before she could put it in. So that's like once a week. And
Okay.
it's a ritual now because we're teaching her in that way.
Wow, that's amazing. It sounds like you're just doing all the right things. My only idea or suggestion might be that to make sure that um, when you're looking to reward your child, um, and you probably do this already, um, make sure we find out what they like. I mean, it's something simple, but right. Make sure it's a reward that they appreciate, because it's happened to me in the past, and I've seen it happen where parents just suddenly think they know exactly what their child would appreciate, and then it doesn't work that way. So, and that's something that kind of be talked about in family meetings. But thank you for sharing. That was wonderful.
Yeah, that was a good one that you mentioned that, because I did struggle a couple of years, because so my struggle is more so like, I understand what it means to respect your child, and it just means listening to me,
Mhm.
listening and hearing them out. But then you have our old ways and traditions where the child is not to have an opinion but to only speak when spoken to, etc. So I came to that as well, of like, okay, let me actually hear and see what my kid actually likes to make her even more excited. But I even got checked by my kid, and I say checked respectively,
Okay.
because she said, "Mom, I'm not you." And I said, now I need to take a look at what I'm doing. So thank
Wow.
you for that one.
As I tell you, being a parent it's a challenge. A- Anybody like to comment on that or just share some stuff?
I would. My name is Mimi, and I'm new to the parent group. I have a 16-year-old, and she's a good girl, but right now the 16-year-old mind is and the mouth, it's I'm having a conflict with that, because like the other lady just said, we're older and we're set in our ways, and so my 16-year-old, she doesn't um, feel that structure is important. When you were saying, talk about goals and setting a place to, have your learning, um, dressing, and all those things. I'm trying to get her to understand that in life you have to have these things. And I'm not saying that she missed all of it growing up, but structure is important for me, to get across to her, because as she continues to, to grow up, I mean, she's getting ready to reach adulthood. How do I tell her, like, look, this is important. You need to do these things because it's part of your life skills, it's part of adulting. And we are constantly in conflict. Well, why? I mean, she wants to challenge me if I'm telling her what I know what's right. I mean, I just got off of work and I'm dealing with it with a grown person on my job.
Mm-hmm.
When you're at work, you come to work presentable. Don't come to work like you just rolled out of bed. And I
Mm-hmm.
just before I tuned into this Zoom, I was just telling my daughter, you have to, present yourself in a professional way in life and on jobs, and if not, you won't keep it. So I mean, it's right now for me, it's pretty hard dealing with my teenage daughter, talking back and doing what she wants to do and just having a lazy mindset. So
Mm-hmm.
I know this is like geared as far as like structure, like the beginning of when your kid is little, instilling these values in them. But I would even like to have a conversation with 16-year-old moms. I mean, the moms of 16-year-old, 17-year-old girls
Mm-hmm.
that are dealing with the attitudes now.
Sure. That's fascinating. Social media has played such a role in raising our children outside of what we'd like to see done or what we feel is appropriate. Um, but there are also some excellent tools as well, uh, in terms of some apps that are available or other online resources that can really assist in that piece of parenting, though those adolescent years. Now, what we are sharing in our fast sessions tonight and the other two that are coming are processes that we say in the therapeutic field, trust the process, right? Um, so it's something that you have to just continue to do. And there are no handbooks to perfect parenting. It sounds like you are showing respect. Your child, especially, see, we're all challenged now, not only with the normal developmental challenges of adolescence, but these developmental challenges taking place in a COVID restricted environment, right?
Yes.
Th- those are that's the age group that is really out there wanting to be social, wanting to do all of this stuff that is completely a natural part of development, but they can't do it. So what do we do to replace that is the challenge. And one of the things, again, social media has given us a vehicle to some extent on how to replace that social interactions that are so important for us all, but particularly for the adolescents that are developing. So that's why I would fall back again on the family meeting piece, where you can talk about your fears. You can talk about why you think the way you do, and where is a middle ground, right? You care about your children's health and safety. You care about their development, right? You care about making them good characters, building character. So in the family meetings, you guys have these discussions. And again, and see, the adolescent may want to present as this mature, I know it all, blah, blah, blah. But when we're when we are mature and not necessarily know it all, but when we're mature, then we're able to listen, right? And that's what you will challenge your adolescent with. Well, if you're so mature, then you should be able to listen to what I'm saying, not in a way where you feel offended, but we're just trying to understand each other because I love you. And
Yeah,
I'm
because
not going to be, you know, I'm sorry, go
her
ahead.
thing, her saying is, "Oh, mom, you're nagging," or "Why
Yeah.
you fussing?" Well, I would believe that because you're 16 years old, this is common sense. You know what to do. You should know better. And it's like, I mean, she asked me a question today. I'm coming home from work at 5 o'clock. Are you cooking? Wait a minute. You asking me if I'm cooking tonight and you done been home all day? Why didn't you take something out the freezer? So therefore I can cook it for you when I get home. But no, you gonna eat that rotisserie chicken that I got from Costco yesterday and put a salad with it. And that's your dinner. So it's just like being responsible. Oh, well, I could take this out for dinner tonight when my mama get home, eat some ground turkey, and we can eat turkey burgers or spaghetti or something. So
So, so then this becomes, you know what this becomes, right? This becomes an agenda item on your family meeting,
okay.
right? So as you put your struggles on the family meeting agenda where they can be addressed in a non-stressful environment. Because typically, like you were just describing, it's being addressed in a somewhat stressful confrontational environment that is natural because that's how it happened. But again, we talk about learning opportunities. This is a learning opportunity. This is a family meeting opportunity to discuss, come to a compromise and understanding in a way where you're not feeling rushed, offended, and she's not feeling whatever a 16-year-old feels. I will begin to imagine what a 16-year-old female feels. But a family meeting, though, again, I would put that on the agenda for a family meeting discussion.
Well, I know that it's just me and my daughter. My oldest daughter is away at college. It's the
Hmm.
two of us, and we do need structure. I mean, if I could talk to you or get your number after this, because Miss Cristal introduced me to this parent club, and I really have been looking to seeking professional help from a mentor or a guidance counselor because I do need that. I'm the mama that fuss. I told you once you need to do it, you still laying down and you haven't got up and to do it. So it irritates me. Then she wants to talk back. So I agree with the family meetings. She always says, "Mom, you don't listen to me." Okay, well, this is what I know is right. This is what you need to do. You need to listen to me. And sometimes their feedback, it don't make any sense. It
Well, see, you made the statement that it doesn't make any sense, right?
mm-hmm.
So let's find a way for elements of it to make sense. So let's not take the whole paragraph she just said, right? Let's carve out a line. Let's carve out a word. Let's carve out something that we can give her value for, right?
Okay.
So because no one is all right and no one is all wrong.
Okay.
That's just not life. And it sounds like you have a daughter that loves you, uh, but she's 16 years old. Right? So, um, and as we talked about earlier in this session, finding things to reinforce the positive, right? Recognizing it. And again, I may say a sentence with 10, 15, 20 words, or I may say a sentence with five. But there may be one word or one piece of that sentence that, if it's a challenging sentence, and I'm telling it to my mother and I'm a 15, 16-year-old boy, my mama would be pissed. I'm sorry, she'd be upset.
You can
But
say it.
but if she went to my 4 sessions of fast, she would say, okay, I'm going to pull a line out of what you said that I agree with, and we build from there. That that would be something that might make sense. Um, I am so happy that we're having this conversation, and I see everybody is still on, so that's great. Everybody's still engaged. Anybody else want to dive in with some of their experiences? Because again, this is a team we have going on right here. People may be doing things that they found success with. Please share it with us. I am no expert. Trust me, I don't consider myself an expert. I just consider myself a helper. So you guys are probably doing things that are working wonderfully in your family. Please share those.
I want to chime in very quickly about my son. For some reason, these kids nowadays, they have this I'm not afraid to fail, or it doesn't faze me to fail type of attitude. And it's like, when we were growing up, it was almost like we tried our best, I think, out of respect for our parents coming down on us. But for
Right.
some reason, these children, they're like, it's like, okay, it's like you're telling them to do this, you take this away. They're like, oh, I don't care, fine. And it's like, oh, it's such a struggle, because you don't want to hold their hands too much, obviously, but at the same time, do you just sort of let them fall on their face so they can learn the lesson? And then that happens, and it's like, oh, am I a bad parent for allowing that? It's such a catch-20 when it comes to that.
Mr. Ross, that's what an excellent concern. I use the term accountability in this presentation as well, right? And um, yeah, that is the toughest thing for modern parents to do, is allowing the kids to fall flat on their face so they'll learn those kinds of lessons. But it's so important that they do, because, and I say to the extent that you're there to pick them back up, but wow, you brought back a memory for me. Oh man, I thought, I was always curious, was my mother clairvoyant? I would say, how did you know? I would come, because she would say, Andrew, I don't think you should do that. I was raised by a single parent. She had 4 boys she was raising, so it was a little challenge. She said, I don't think you should do that. And I'll be darned if 99.9% of the time she was right. And so I learned my lesson. Thank God I didn't go too far to the left. But um, those are some of the things, Mr. Ross, that, yeah, you do let them fall on their face to a degree, pick them up, and then this is again where the family meeting can offer real value. Um, they can talk about how they're feeling, so and remember, the family meeting, no one should be offended to the extent that everyone understands. And when you lay the ground rules, it's about respect and open communication. So that and I don't know how old your children are, but they can start to talk about who they are, what they're feeling, which may give you insight on how to manage that piece of their life, right? Um, and find, again, if you take a look at session number one in terms of motivation, in terms of internal and external um, motivation and self-esteem, there's a lot of information in that session one that kind of speaks to what you're experiencing with your child. But again, it goes back to building a sense of self-esteem, motivation, and responsibility. And that's doable, but it's a process. And don't feel that you're not doing your parenting job because you are.
Excuse me, I'd like to ask a question when you get a chance.
Sure. Uh, and I can talk forever. Go ahead and ask a question.
So my question is in reference to when you spoke about, because I'm kind of with Ed about the child being willing to fail, or where they just kind of shrug it off and wanting them to be free to express themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But right now I'm struggling with trying to know whether she's really having this struggle to where she doesn't care, or she actually needs the help. It's almost like she's willing to fail so that she doesn't have to show that she doesn't know something. It's
Okay.
like a know-it-all mentality, but I know I don't know, but I would rather just not know than to allow you to help me, and or anybody to help me. And I don't really know
Mhm.
how to work through that with my daughter so that she can make the decision that's best for herself, where she doesn't feel that I'm trying to force what I think is best for her on her. Where
Mhm.
we communicate to where she understands that we're actually working towards the same goal, and that I'm not against her and I'm for her. Like, what would you suggest to be
A
um
motivator, right?
yeah,
Something that again, I'm going to refer to session one that talked about building self-esteem, personal values, personal sense of responsibility, and motivation, because that directly addresses some of your concerns. Um, to the extent that there is a motivation. That motivation is the biggest challenge I think we face right now with our children. Some of them are so not motivated. So I would again address it in the family meeting. One, two, find out what she enjoys doing. In other words, here we're coming to the reinforcement piece, right? Um, Offer reinforcement for achievement at this point. Now you expressed that you're not sure if it's a academic or a learning issue or a attitude or motivation issue. Did I hear you right?
yes, for the most part, yes.
Okay. So start including little reinforcements in her life. It can be verbal compliments, it can be things that she likes to do. Um, one, and then two, during the family meetings, just come clean. Don't express your frustration as much as you're expressing your love. Okay. She doesn't need to see you as challenging her. She needs to see you as supporting her ability to navigate through these tough times.
How do you be supportive when she's challenging your support? How do you not challenge the part where they challenge the fact that you're actually trying to be supportive and not their enemy? Because my daughter's just turned 12 in September. So she's also going through the puberty thing in the midst of the COVID. So, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out how to not push her away and get her to come to me with, you know what I
So
mean, while still getting her to stay on the
absolutely.
path.
So as I said, this is a team effort here. I'm not professing to be an expert, but so what I would advise you do is as soon as we get off this call, you Google raising a 12-year-old or something to that extent, because there are so many resources out there to help you navigate that. I don't know if you've tried, if you've attempted to look up anything in terms of that, but there's just so many resources out there. And again, I would advise that you take a look at our session 1. That top, because again, that that whole
I have a question.
dynamic. Yeah, go ahead.
Um, um, to the lady who was just speaking, was her grades and her attitude better before she turned 12 or before the pandemic happened? And the reason I'm asking is because I have a 14-year-old and we've gone through that twice. And it was a matter of, he was ashamed for people to know how smart he was. But now he don't care. He wanted to fit in with everybody else and just do silly stuff. And so that was his biggest issue. He didn't fail. He didn't care if he got D's and stuff because he did not want anybody to know how smart he was. And she may be just brilliant and don't want other people to know. You
Well,
never
she's
know.
brilliant. Shouldn't she let me know she's brilliant too?
I mean,
There may be some identity stuff going on here with her. She may be. It's just a challenging, stressful time for our kids right now.
Yeah.
Um, and
mhm.
sometimes we're not even recognizing be, that it's the anxiety around these times that they're living in that may be part of how they're expressing themselves to you. Because there's an
Well,
old saying that goes, behavior is an expression of need.
say that again.
Behavior is an expression of need.
Of need.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so just take a step back. Everybody just take a step back, right? And see what, how you can change your communication style maybe a little bit. Or does she have other adults in her life who she relates to that can assist you with navigating this? But again, understand that the whole isolation challenge that our children are facing will have some impact on how you navigate them in the household. It just will. So understand that that might be a part of it too.
I
Um,
agree. My daughter constantly complains and cries out because she doesn't have any friends.
yeah.
And the only people that she has around her are young adults and 40-year-olds and 60-year-olds. And
Mhm.
like, I'm sorry that I have to go to work every day and leave you, and you on a computer doing Zoom with your teachers, and you're in this classroom, for an hour and a half or so, and then after the class is over, then you're doing homework on your own. I'm sorry, but I do make effort, get involved with other avenues of getting to know people, other resources of reaching out, of communication. I mean, I feel like when she lashes out at me, she's mad at me because she done been here all day by herself. And I do realize that's what a lot of kids are going through, and they're venting to their parents and taking it out on their parents. But you know, when COVID hit, parents had to be teachers and doctors and nurses, and
Everything.
so they had to take on the role of everything, whereas parents were, you know, went to work for 8 to 12 hours. The kids went to school and went to after school program. You come home at the end of the day, hey, so how was your day? But now the parent is calling, like for me, you know, I'm calling, hey, are you on a Zoom call? Are you doing your homework? Yes, mom. You know, and I tell her, okay, well, I mean, I don't even argue the fact anymore of her when you talked about having a organized workspace. You know, in the beginning, I was like, you know, get up an hour and a half or an hour before your class, take a shower, refresh yourself, and be attentive as if you really was at school. Don't wake up, roll over, just getting out of bed, you know, and you haven't taken care of yourself. I don't even argue that fact that point anymore. All I know is that at 10 o'clock, I can call or text her and she's doing her work. So I can get what if that's what works for her and it doesn't stress me out and I'm at work, well, if it's fine, do it. You know, and then I'll communicate with the teachers. But again, our parents, I mean, we as parents, we're stressed out too because of COVID.
Sure.
So we need coping skills on how to deal with the attitude. I really do want my daughter to have friends. It's not like when I was in school, I can go to school every day. And, you know, I'm not saying I was popular, but then kids were also, I mean, my daughter was also bullied. So she never really developed a trustworthy friendship. So she feels alone. But the women and, you know, that's in her life, that's young adults and older, they're structured and she can learn from them. And I'm grateful for the Al Wooten Center. I just wish that she would take much more of a advantage to see what they had to offer to get her out there where she can make new friends. Right now, kids is getting on the TikTok, which I feel like the other night she was on the phone and I'm like, who are you talking to? And it was some type of monkey app, you know, and I'm like, I have no control anymore. Back in the day, we had control on what our kids could watch, but the internet has gotten so beyond parents. Parents is like, how do you do this? What's that? So I just feel like if my daughter was to really like get involved, she would feel better too. But again, I know I'm not the only mother or parent going through it with the internet and the phone and what's gotten our kids' attention.
I'm with you,
Wow.
Kiki.
The Kiki, I'm Mimi, but Kiki is my daughter. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm with you, Mimi.
Yeah, okay. Well, what's your name?
My daughter's name up here too. I go by Sultania. I'm getting my hair done, so that's why y'all can't look at me look crazy.
Okay, Tanya. Well, listen. I mean, and it's not. I really want her to understand life skills. I'm sorry, the facilitator. I don't know your name that I done took over the call, but I am at a cry for help because when I was in school, I'm not saying I was afraid of my mother or my aunt, but I knew damn well better. You better get this job done. I'm paying school tuition. You better get it done. Or I'm working and you want to go to the movies. Back in the day, we can go to the Hawthorne Mall, catch the RTD to the Hawthorne Mall, you know, and take care of our business, you know, go hang out. But now today we can't. It's too much going on to let our kids go. So I just need a parent communication too. What do we do? Help.
I went and
That
got
is
us a therapist. I ain't even gonna lie to you. And to be honest, it's helped because it gives her somewhere to go to talk to, because certain things that your daughter's not comfortable enough to speak about with you, she's not speaking about it and it still bothers her. So
well, she does have a therapist. She does talk to a therapist.
So then that works too. So for you, you might need to see her too. I'm seeing my daughter's therapist too, because it's helping me to figure out how to cope with what she's also coping with. because like you said, we're all under a lot of pressure and we're under a lot of stress, and COVID is posing a lot of different things that are challenging us on top of what we already had going on when they were in school. So for me, I decided that it would be good if she saw her as well as I saw her, and we saw her together. And it it is definitely not an overnight process, but
Right.
if she wants to have that relationship with you, she's going to slowly adjust. And I think that's with all of us as parents. I think what we don't realize as people of color is that mental health is real, and it doesn't mean that something's wrong with you or wrong with the parent or anything like that. It just means that we're all going through day-to-day traumas,
Right.
and we all need other perspectives sometimes to give us another way to cope. And it's the same thing with our kids. I think
Yeah.
us and our kids are having the same experience, just in different bodies.
How old is your daughter? Santoya, your name is?
So Tanya, my daughter just turned 12.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, I appreciate your input, and I will continue to talk to her therapist, because I did tell her therapist that we do need counseling together.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm seriously, like, a few weeks ago, I was just ready to throw in the towel.
Well,
I
my
was like,
mom is even on this call, and my mom is who my daughter is spending, who's kind of like how you say, get another party in there. And my mom has been the supporting family member to help with us. I was happy to get in this call and see she was already on here. But it just being able to have somewhere for you to go as well as for her to go, and somewhere you can go together, because what it does is having that third party there that's not a family member allows you both to have a safe space in the midst of communicating with one another. And I think the part right now that all of us are dealing with our preteens and our teenagers is communication.
You know, this is, I guess that's why they call this a family support meeting, right? I mean, we were just having some incredible conversations here. I'd like to, if you haven't had a chance to take a look at the chat, Keisha Jones, thank you, Keisha, just put a link in for mental health. Um, Also, if you Google DMH, LA County Department of Mental Health, um, you will find just a ton of resources. There's a lot of responsive folks in the mental health field right now. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ms. Smith. And that is that I would suggest everybody on this call at least explore it. It may make a huge difference. Let's see.
Don't quit, Mimi. We got this.
girl. Woo.
Okay. Anything else anybody would like to share? Anything that they're doing in their homes that they are finding successful? I mean, I don't think it's all bad, is it? I think
This
it
is
was.
Martha.
Come on now, because I think the comment about mental health just really laid the foundation of probably being, if not the single most, but one of the single most important things we can explore. But come on, folks, something's working.
Positive affirmations. I
This
think
is
are
Martha.
big.
Mhm.
Just positive affirmations with you enforcing your child to kind of learn about positive affirmations. What me and my mom try to just practice ourselves and also teach my daughter is the power of thought, understanding the law of attraction, understanding how things follow based on your actions, by not just telling them that they have to do this, but trying to figure out a way to allow them to understand that what they do now is a reflection of the application that they'll take into the world. And just kind of taking life that they have to do now and trying to find a way to show them how it does apply, instead of thinking that I'm doing this math, I won't have to do this when I'm grown. No, but the work habit you will. And I think when he asks about things in the home, just learning ways to cross connect what they have to do right now into what is in the world that we have to do, so they know that we're doing the same thing they're doing and they're not in this boat alone. I think we all worry about feeling alone right now in these times, including with the things
Absolutely.
that we carry on our plate.
Now, are you guys familiar with the term mindfulness? That's kind of popular in the self-help industry. Anybody familiar with mindfulness?
Yes.
Okay. I would suggest everybody explore that as well. That's kind of a centering process. It's, part meditation, part self-actualization that again can be an important piece in navigating through these COVID times. And I'd like to, this, anybody ever heard of self-talk? So what that is basically, um, the therapeutic term is rational emotive behavioral therapy. That's where everybody on this Zoom call right now is having a conversation in their mind about what they're going to do later, or they have an impression about me, or there's a conversation they're having about something. And so we all experience self-talk too, to the extent that we talk about our successes and failures to ourselves, right? We may be saying how we feel is a conversation with ourselves. And what that does is it promotes how we behave, right? So what we want to do in terms of from a self-talk perspective is change the conversation. Not talk about how bad I'm doing, but talk about how well I will do. And these are conversations you can have with your children, because when we talk about our children saying they're not good enough, they can't do this, this is something that they've convinced themselves of through the conversations they're having with themselves. Change that narrative as part of changing the behavior process. Because again, when we talk about how we feel, we kind of behave that way. And when I say talk about it, I'm talking self-talk. So that may be a piece of the puzzle as well. That makes sense?
So you're basically, yes, so unlearn some things.
Right.
Unlearn your mother's habits or ways of how she talked to you. And I get it, because my daughter tells me, oh, you being a bully. No, get it done and do it now. I can't. I think she has a problem with multitasking, and I can say it once, and I'll come back. She's still laying down. I heard you the first time. Well, when you gonna get up? So I get what you're saying. Unlearn some of the habits how we were raised and how our parents talk to us.
A lot of times what our parents did with us is what their parents did with them. And people of color, you have to realize that even our parents and their parents and their parents were still doing how Black people were treated back when we weren't even given the right to speak or read or write. So a lot of things that we do and how we treat each other is generational. So most of the things we've learned, we need to find a different way of doing it, because our parents pretty much told us, shut up and do it. You don't have an option. But we're dealing with a generation of kids that come in the world already equipped with, I have an option and I have a say. And if you're going to force me to do it without allowing me to have a say, then I'm just not going to do anything as a means to make my stand for myself. So, what I'm learning with my daughter is, and from even my own past, growing and understanding my relationship with my mom, it's from reflecting with me and my daughter, I'm able to reflect and understand more what my mom was working with when raising me. And she was working with what she knew or what she didn't know. And so the best thing to do is, like you said, the best words is to unlearn some of those things, especially if you take yourself back to that time and you remember how it made you feel when it was done to you. If it wasn't a feeling that you liked, know that that's the same feeling you're giving your child times 10 probably, because that generation is not used to that form of treatment. They're almost born spoiled.
Do you think I don't know really who puts the talks on, but my daughter, she been she been ear hustling on the conversation here and there and putting her little 2 cents in. I think we should have the parents versus the kids on here next talk, because
That sounds good.
pretty good. This is pretty good to me. Like I mean, I want to see what some other girls is talking about with the, like it's not just me. Like the Ed was talking about his son. I I would love to hear a young man's point of view, how his father is raising him, or what he disagree, or how his father is raising him. Because I know back in the day, pull your pants up, you going on an interview, you look like you already got the job. Don't walk in there sagging and just like you done rolled out of bed. Because if you look the part and you speak elegant words and have eloquent conversation, well, then you may just be the person for the job. But if you're going in there rushed and sloppy looking, they gonna look over at you and say next. So I would love to hear some teenagers. What is it, Mr. Williams, the facilitator? That was the guy. Henderson, I'm sorry. Yes, I think we should do another talk with the kids versus the parents or something.
Wow, that's a thought. I am open to that. Absolutely, I think it would be very powerful, actually, especially during these times. Yeah.
Yeah, because we all need support. We need to have other outlets to go through. I mean, sometimes when I come home, I just come in my room and I lay down. I don't even ask her, "Hey, how was your day? What did you do?" Because I'm exhausted from work, and then she may have irritated me throughout the day, and I just don't want to be bothered, so I shut down. But then again, she's been lonely all day. Well, mom, can we go somewhere? Can we go do something? I'm like, no, I'm tired.
Yeah,
So
that again, that goes back to when we talk about rituals, creating new rituals, right?
yes.
So it's talking about maybe making mindfulness a new ritual. I want you guys to explore mindfulness, but see what you're talking about, Kiki, is when you come home from a long day, you sit down and center yourself, and this can take a minute. It doesn't take, but you just strip away all of that day and you center yourself, creating that space that your daughter needs, because now you've kind of washed away the stress of that day through uncluttering the mental conversations that you're having that create the anxiety and create the stress of that day. You're in a different space now,
Mm-hmm.
a space where you can hear. And then you can even bring your children, when they're old enough, into the mindfulness, into that being centered, being in the moment, being present, and not letting the distractions not allow you to be present. Because as a parent, I guess that's probably one of the single most valuable things we can be, is being present. But we are so challenged now to be present. So
Mm-hmm.
really, I would really suggest everybody explore mindfulness and how that can impact.
It's funny we're having this, that I got on this call. I had this conversation with one of my stylists this morning about choosing you. But in choosing you, you choose everyone else. And
Mhm.
what that means is that the saying, like, if I don't have nothing to give myself, I don't have nothing for nobody else.
Right.
So the mindfulness part comes into taking the time to stop and take yourself into consideration.
Hmm.
Because 9 times out of 10, where on your job, at least 8 hours of your day, you're giving everybody and everything else your attention, your consideration, your time, your energy, your presence.
Mm-hmm.
And to give it elsewhere, you're not giving it to yourself. And then when you get home, you want to give it to yourself. But the truth is when you get home, you have a whole nother job to still do. And that's
Yeah.
us being a parent, right?
Yeah.
So I think what Mr. Henderson is sharing is a way for us to understand that we as parents, we don't get to use the excuse, I'm tired. We don't get to use the excuse, I had a long day. We don't get to use that excuse because these are children who aren't in the world and don't understand what goes on in the world. All they understand is my mom comes home and she doesn't have time for me. She doesn't have the energy for me. Did I do something? Did I say something wrong? Am I bothering her? You know what? My mom is always tired. I don't want to ask her for too much. My mom is always tired. I don't know if I can say something. I don't know what to say that may or may not irritate her. My mom
Well,
is always tired. And I've heard that from my own child.
you know, the thing is, and I'll close with this because we've come to the end of our session. So what you have done now, right, is created a new ritual that your child understands through the family meeting. The ritual being that, honey, when I come home, I'm going to take 60 seconds to 2 minutes for myself to process out the day through a mindfulness exercise where I will give you my full attention and be relaxed. They understand that now as part of your family ritual. So she won't be this hyper expectant person as soon as you come home from work. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to thank everybody for hanging in there. I thought we had an extraordinarily rich
I have
conversation.
one last comment before you wrap it up, Ms. Henderson. Just one, and this was great, everyone. A lot of information. Um, all I really want to contribute now is just say that my son is 11 years old, so I know a lot of parents have children that are in the preteen or teen years, and the reason I said earlier that it seems like the children now, they just don't have the compassion for their parents. It seems like we had previous generations. And I think a good question is, do we show our kids at this young age the struggle and the behind the scenes that we do to make everything in the house work so they can appreciate it and have compassion based on that? Or do we continue to let them be children and not have to worry about that stuff for their parents? I think it's a good question because I know, like, when I was younger, and like a lot of you guys raised by single parents, I knew the struggles of my mother at an early age, and I saw it. And so I saw me doing good was more of a reflection on her versus just for me. But my children they don't look at it that way. It's almost like I'm here just to serve their world. And, they don't see the struggle at all or appreciate it. So, just a question that I think we should all think about is do we show our children the struggle behind the scenes? It's almost like you see the swan on the pond, you see the beauty of the swan, you don't see the feet under the water doing all the crazy work. You know what I'm saying? So just something to think about, you guys. Appreciate you.
Well, yeah, you know that's the age-old struggle, right? We don't want to create any more stress or anxiety in our children, um, but at the same time, we want them to be accountable and respect what's going on in the family. That's an excellent point. So my only suggestion there would be that we have expectations for them, right? Realistic expectations in terms of learning, in terms of personal responsibility around the house, all the things that are an appropriate piece of work for an 11-year-old. And it sounds like you have a smart one. So you can talk about your job as well, but in a way that doesn't create stress and anxiety. That's the important thing. They don't need to feed in to an adult experience, right? They need to have they need to have it contextualized. They need to have it presented because we have bright children, but in a way that says, okay, I need to be responsible because I'm a member of this family that has a responsibility to this family, if that's making sense. So that I would navigate it kind of like that.
Wow.
Appreciate that. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Well, again, I would like to say thank you so much for your time and attention. I hope there was something positive that you were able to take away this evening. Again, these sessions are recorded, so you can always go back for little for refreshers. For affirmation, that was a word that was used quite a bit to a refresher on what what may work. Again, so I would invite you same time, say next week, to explore further our wonderful experience of parenting. So on that
Thank
note, I wish everybody a good evening.
Where do I
Thank
find the
you.
refreshers?
So we record all of these sessions and we upload them to the Wooten webpage and also to their YouTube channel. So you could go back and view the recording. So Mr. Henderson had a workshop last week, and that's recorded on the YouTube page. This one will also be uploaded to that as well. So then you could go through, pick up anything that you may have missed, any discussion that you want to reconsider or just take on a little bit more. So so that will be there. And if you have any trouble logging on, please reach out to us and we could send it directly to you.
All right, thank you. The center looks amazing in the background, by the way. It's the library, Rebecca?
Yes, I wish I was there.
Oh, you tricked me.
I
See,
wish I
you
was
know what?
there.
You're not alone. I did the same thing. I said, "Wow, she's working late."
Oh my God, I need that background.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in
Yeah,
my dirty office right now with piles of stuff. No one wants to see that.
And thank you. I met a new friend. I done messed up your name. I'm sorry. Say your name again, new friend.
Sultanya.
Wait, say that again.
Sultanya, like Sultan, but Sultanya.
Oh, so Tanya. Girl,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you, new friend.
No
She's just
problem.
she's a descendant of sultans. She's a very powerful woman.
My daughter's actually Miss Naomi's granddaughter, to be
Oh,
honest.
wonderful.
Yeah, so we work together here as a family, as a team, right? We all
Okay,
in this together.
Absolutely.
when can we all, like, I mean, I don't mind giving my number out.
Okay.
Or how do we, I mean, I
I'll
know.
put mine in the group chat since mine's public on Yelp, Instagram, and everything, since it is my business number. And then you can reach out to me.
Wait a minute. Okay, so here's my square. I see that I'm talking, but
In the chat. You can put it in the chat.
in the chat.
So,
Okay.
so you might be able to see the chat better. It's on the bottom of
Oh,
the page.
To the right.
Person, I think.
It's on the
You might
bottom
see
of the
something with
page.
3 buttons.
That's the
Press
wrong person.
that.
Oh, okay. The chat. Okay, I got it. Okay. All right. I'm gonna put my name is Mimi. I'm gonna put it in right now.
Okay. And then let me see. And we're gonna do this like this.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Mr. Henderson, I just want to let you know that there's a lot of appreciation in the chat for allowing a space for everybody to talk and vent and kind of work through things. So thank you so much again for a wonderful workshop. We really appreciate all that you do for the Wooten Center.
Well, it's my pleasure. And I look forward to next Monday, guys. Hope to see everybody and hear everybody then.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night.
Right.
Mimi, I'll stay on and let me know when you all got the stuff from the chat. I won't close it out. All right.